الحمد لله الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستهديه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا. الحمد لله الذي لم يتخذ ولدا ولم يكن له شريك في الملك ولم يكن له ولي من الذل والله أكبر كبيرا. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله الأحد الفرد الصمد الذي لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. مالك الملك يؤتي الملك من يشاء وينزع الملك ممن يشاء، يعز من يشاء ويذل من يشاء، بيده الخير وهو على كل شيء قدير. سبح له ما في السماوات وما في الأرض وهو العزيز الحكيم. له ملك السماوات والأرض، يحيي ويميت وهو على كل شيء قدير. هو الأول والآخر والظاهر والباطن وهو بكل شيء عليم. وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله، بلغ الرسالة وأدى الأمانة وجاهد في الله حق جهاده حتى أتاه اليقين. تركنا على المحجة البيضاء ليلها كنهارها لا يزيغ عنها إلا هالك. شرح الله له صدره ووضع عنه وزره وأعلمه أن مع العسر يسرا وأمره أن إذا فرغت فانصب وإلى ربك فارغب. عباد الله، أوصيكم ونفسي المقصرة بتقوى الله، وأحذركم ونفسي من عصيانه ومخالفة أمره، لزوما لقوله الحق تبارك وتعالى في كتابه الكريم: يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. وكذلك في قول الحق تبارك وتعالى: يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. اتقوا الله، فإن زلزلة الساعة شيء عظيم. يوم ترونها تذهل كل مرضعة عما أرضعت وتضع كل ذات حمل حملها وترى الناس سكارى وما هم بسكارى ولكن عذاب الله شديد. My brothers and sisters, my dearest children, indeed, in the month of May, the Muslim Ummah remembers a very tragic incident that had affected the whole Muslim Ummah, which is known in the history of Palestine as Al Nakbah, the catastrophe. And in this tragedy, the Muslim Ummah lost a precious part of its land, lost the first Qibla, lost Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa. And in today's khutbah, in a few minutes, allow me to explore why every Muslim should be concerned and should be worried and should be following up on what is happening in the land of Palestine and what is happening in around Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa. Because Allah Azza wa Jal, the Mighty, mentioned in the Quran that وَالتِّينِ وَالزَّيْتُونِ وَطُورِ سِنِينَ وَهَذَا الْبَلَدِ الْأَمِينَ. Allah Azza wa Jal make an oath in the Quran by the fig and the olive, وَطُورِ سِنِينَ, and the mountain of Tur, وَهَذَا الْبَلَدِ الْأَمِينَ, referring to Al-Masjid Al-Haram. And as the Mufassirun indicated, that Allah Azza wa Jal, when He makes an oath by the fig and the olive, does not necessarily refer to the fruits, but referring to the location where these fruits are planted, which is in the land of Palestine, and the surrounding areas around the land of Palestine, which is the mountain of Tur, and expanding all the way to Al-Masjid Al-Haram. Allah Azza wa Jal places an importance to this land historically from the ancient time, from the time of Adam alayhi salam, as Allah Azza wa Jal said in the Quran: إن أول بيت وضع للناس للذي ببكة مباركا وهدى للعالمين. The first house of worshipping established on earth for a human to worship Allah Azza wa Jal is what is located in Mecca or Bakka, which is referring to Al-Kaaba. And when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was asked, Ya Rasulullah, what's the first place of worshipping on earth? He referred to Al-Masjid Al-Haram. And then when he was asked, what is the second place of worshipping that is established on earth? Then the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam responded to Abu Dharr, who asked this question, Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa. And then when he asked him, what's the time difference between the two? He said, 40 years. So from ancient time, Allah Azza wa Jal had given a barakah to Al-Quds or to Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa, because it is the second place of worshipping for humans on earth. And this barakah was continued to be presented and mentioned throughout the Quran. وَنَجَّيْنَاهُ وَلُوطًا إِلَى الْأَرْضَ الَّتِي بَارَكْنَا فِيهَا لِلْعَالَمِينَ. So the barakah of the land of Palestine or Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa or Jerusalem was existing from before the migration of Ibrahim alayhi salam from Iraq, when he was chased out by An-Namrud, the tyrant, and he came to Palestine seeking refuge. And Ibrahim, as we know, came to the land of Palestine and was welcomed by the ruler of that region, from Al-Yabusiyin, those who are the Arab tribes who have left from Yemen, the origin of Arab in the Arabian Peninsula, and settled in Palestine or the land of Al-Quds about 3,000 years before the birth of Isa alayhi salam. The reason why I want to go in some details historically to defend the big lie in which presented that the land of Palestine, which has no people, no sha'b, is given to people who have no land, to the Israelis. That's a big lie, need to be defended historically as well as religiously. When we look into how Allah Azza wa Jal have defined the land of Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa or the land of Jerusalem, He defined it as al-ard allati barakna fiha lil-alamin, to all mankind. And when Ibrahim alayhi salam migrated to Palestine, he migrated knowing that there is a civilization established by the Yabusiyin, who were muwahhideen, also believing in Allah Azza wa Jal. And then the king of Yabusiyin gave Ibrahim alayhi salam a location to settle in with his family, which is known right now to us as Al-Khalil, Hebron, where the grave of Ibrahim is known to be, and where Al-Haram al-Ibrahimi is in the land of Palestine, in the city of Hebron or the city of Al-Khalil. Ibrahim alayhi salam al-Muwahhid, ما كان إبراهيم يهوديا ولا نصرانيا ولكن كان حنيفا مسلما وما كان من المشركين. So Allah Azza wa Jal is saying to us that Ibrahim was neither a Jew nor Christian nor an associator, but rather he was a Muslim. إن أولى الناس بإبراهيم للذين اتبعوه وهذا النبي والذين آمنوا. And we are the followers of Ibrahim alayhi salam. Ibrahim alayhi salam lived in the land of Palestine for about 149. And then the children of Ibrahim, who are coming from Ishaq and Yaqub alayhi salam, were living in the land of Palestine until the story of Yusuf alayhi salam's with his own brothers and then his migration or settlement or ending up in Egypt. And after that, when Yusuf alayhi salam had established his life in Egypt, became Aziz Misr, the prime minister of Egypt, he told to his own brothers, "Tuni bi ahlikum ajma'in." Go back to my father. This is my shirt. Give it to my father. And وَأْتُونِي بِأَهْلِكُمْ أَجْمَعِينَ. all the family of Ibrahim alayhi salam who lived there from the time of Ibrahim until the departure of Yaqub with his own children to the land of Egypt was only 149 years. And then Bani Israel settled in Egypt for about 500 or 400 years before they left from Egypt, trying to go back again to the land of Palestine. And then, as we all know, Ya Qawmi, as Musa alayhi salam said to them, ادخلوا الأرض المقدسة التي كتب الله لكم ولا ترتدوا على أعقابكم فتنقلبوا خاسرين. They refused. And then after that, Musa alayhi salam, who came up with the message of Tawheed, who loved the Muslim Ummah, who have given his greeting to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam in the journey of Al-Isra and Al-Mi'raj, and said to him, convey my salam to your Ummah, Ya Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, was not able to enter the land of Palestine, as we all know. And then came after him Dhunnun, who also did not enter the land of Al-Quds, but rather lived in the suburbs or surrounding of in Ariha, what is known as Ariha, a town in Palestine between Al-Quds and Jordan, what is known to be as Jordan right now. And then eventually, after that, Dawood alayhi salam, as we all know, as the Prophet of Allah Azza wa Jal, was the first to enter the land of Al-Quds. And after Dawood alayhi salam come his own son Sulaiman alayhi salam, and they both established a kingdom in the land of Palestine, in the land of Al-Quds for 70 years. After the death of Sulaiman alayhi salam, the kingdom was divided, and they had two, one in the northern part and one in the southern part, referring to the fact that throughout the history from the establishment of civilization in the land of Palestine, Palestine has been known to be a land ruled by Al-Yabusiyun or Al-Arab, the Arabs, or Al-Muwahidun. And then after that, as we know, that the Babylonians have come with Nebuchadnezzar, who come to the land of Palestine and destroyed whatever has been established by the Israelis, or destroyed the Haykal of Sulaiman, and then took the Israelis and moved them to Babel, and they settled there for a long time, for about 250 years. And then after that, Koresh from the Persian Empire occupied, conquered the land of Palestine, and he brought back the Israelis, and they established for the second time a place of worshiping which is called the Haykal, the temple. And then after that, the Roman Empire came to control the land of Palestine, and demolishing the temple in the land of Palestine, and burn it, and then flatten the area where the temple was established. And from there, the Israelis were not allowed to live in the land of Palestine, because after that the Roman Empire created a treaty or a ruling that the Israelis is not to live in the land of Palestine. And this treaty was endorsed also when Umar ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu anhu came to take the keys of Jerusalem from the priests of Jerusalem. And when they looked at Umar ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu anhu, they realized that he is the man described in their own books and scripts to be handed the keys of Jerusalem. And he cried and he said to him, you will be having this city and rule over it as Muslimin, as Muwahideen throughout the time. And your hukum yarqut yawman thumma yarji' marratan ukhra. You will go through the weakness, but eventually you will be conquering back again. This is the history of the land of Palestine. And when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam came after his bi'tha, 10 years after, 12 years after his bi'tha, to Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa to pray behind him all the prophets of Allah Azza wa Jal, we know historically that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam tied al-buraq robe in al-ha'id, the wall of al-Masjid al-Aqsa. Now why I am presenting this important piece of information that all of us are aware of, that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he came using the buraq to al-Masjid al-Aqsa, he tied the buraq in the wall of al-Masjid al-Aqsa. Now we know for a fact that in the second destruction of the temple of the Israelis in the land of Palestine, it was flattened on earth. There was nothing. So that means the temple did not exist in Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa location right now. That's a fact. Need to be understood by Muslims and non-Muslims and by the whole world. We're talking about facts. We're talking about historical facts, and we're talking about religious facts. This land of Palestine, this Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa, which is the first Qibla of Islam, is a Muslim land, and Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa, with all the destination that surrounds Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa, which is about 144 a long area, this is all considered part of Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa. No one has the right to divide Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa geographically nor time-wise with any other group. No one has the right, because this is a land that is established on earth. Allah Azza designated to be for the muwahhideen, the believers in Allah Azza wa Jal, and historically has been known to be Muslims' land from the time of Yabusiyin to the time of Ibrahim alayhi salam, to the Muslims who have conquered the land of Palestine and the time of Umar al-Khattab. Even when the Crusaders came and took the land of Palestine for 90 years, Allah Azza wa Jal directed who liberated the land of Palestine and brought it back again to the boundaries of Islam. And then after that, when the Ottoman Empire ruled over the Muslim Ummah and it became weak at the end of the time, and after the First World War, when the Ottoman Empire lost the war, then the Ottoman Empire property were divided among the Europeans, who happened to be that the land of Palestine was under the supervision of the British colony or the British government. And then they came up with this idea of pledging the land of Palestine to the Jews of the whole world. A land that is not owned by them to someone who does not qualify to own. And then from there, the Muslims throughout the history of Islam, throughout the history of Palestine, throughout the different circumstances, have done everything to protect Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa. In the 1936 Intifada uprising, which is well known uprising in the history of Palestine, Muslims were so concerned as the Israelis were coming through the help and aid of the British government to establish life in Jerusalem, and they were trying to establish worshipings for them in Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa, or by the wall of Al-Buraq, which they called it the Wailing Wall. And many people were killed at that time. And the British government at that time designated one of the lords to look into the matter, and he, after concluding, he said that the land of Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa completely belonged to the Muslims. No one has the right to share with them. Unfortunately, things continue to deteriorate in the Muslim Ummah. The Khilafah was destroyed, and then in the 1948, when the British and their ruling on the land of Palestine, the Israeli movement or the Zionist movement have taken that as an opportunity to control the land of Palestine in 1948, part of the land of Palestine, destroying over 540 villages and expelling over 900 civilians from their own towns and villages, and occupying the western side of Jerusalem. And unfortunately, in the 1967 war, which was a circus, it was a farce, it was a shame on the Muslim Ummah, as they were not able to protect their own lands. The whole land of Palestine was occupied by the Israelis, including the eastern side of Jerusalem. These are facts, not only need to be understood by us, but need to be observed and passed on to our children, so that no one will come and say, well, why not? We cannot share with someone else the Masjid al-Aqsa. Well, why are you saying that that the Israelis have historically no right in the land of Palestine? We say that because that's what historically the fact is, and we say that because that's what it is. That the land of Palestine, al-Masjid al-Aqsa, is a shrine of Islam. And if someone is at certain time is unable to stand up and speak the truth and to defend the Masjid al-Aqsa, in تتولوا يستبدل قوما غيركم. Someone else will come. And as we have seen throughout the times and throughout the different intifadas and uprisings that have taken place in the land of Palestine by the children of Palestine, who started by using stones to defend themselves. We have the right as Muslims to defend ourselves. Now, when we look into what's happening in Ukraine, and our hearts are with the people of Ukraine, we see the whole world is playing double standard. We see the hypocrisy of the whole world. When the people of Gaza or the people of Jerusalem stand up and defend themselves without any arm and expose their chest to the bullets of the Israelis, they're being called terrorists. But when the superpowers of the world stand with billions of dollars and give them to the Ukrainian government, they say they have a legitimate right, and Ukrainians are not terrorists. Well, excuse me, the whole world is a hypocrite, liars. They're all liars. We have the right to defend our land, and that's not terrorism. We are exercising our legitimate right of defending our places of worshiping. The latest incidents that have taken place during the month of Ramadan represent and show how weak the Muslim leaderships of the Muslim Ummah are. Shame on them. Are they not thinking that at one day they will be standing between the hands of Allah Azza wa Jal? Are they not ready to prepare an answer to Allah Azza wa Jal in the day of judgment of why you have collaborated behind the scenes to hand the land of Al-Masjid al-Aqsa to someone else? The latest killing of the journalist show how cruel and brutal the apartheid of the Israeli force is in the land of Palestine. The latest CBC report, which is prepared by Evan Dyer, and I want you to remember this name and Google it on the internet. Type CBC Evan Dyer apartheid and see how the report clearly, using facts from international human rights organizations, which are clearly endorsed and known to our government in Canada and considered to be a trustworthy sources of information. They clearly have indicated that Israeli forces are exercising apartheid against Palestinians. Is our government considering that or looking into that? Our government, unfortunately, have turned a blind eye on the report and on answering questions on why our government continue to keep a blind eye on the injustice that is happening to Muslims in Palestine. And they'll continue to do it unless we are the one who gonna stand up and start questioning and say to our government, Muslims have played a role into helping you to become in power. We need answers from you. Do not be intimidated by the power of the Israeli lobby. I fear nothing. I fear none but Allah, the mighty Allah Azza wa Jal. When we stop being intimidated and create illusional fear in our hearts, then we will be worthy of being respected. Do not expect something from our leadership. Start with the grassroots. Every one of us can do it. Pick up the phone, send an email, say to your MP or MPP, primarily your MP, what is the stand of Canada on the injustice that is happening in Palestine? Why the Canadian government is turning a blind eye on the different, authentic, reputable human rights reports about the continuous violation of human rights to the Muslims of Palestine? Why are the government of Canada doing nothing? That's a message that I hope that all of us will be able to act upon. وأقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه فإنه مستغفر. الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستهديه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور انفسنا وسيئات اعمالنا من يهده الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا. ان الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا ايها الذين امنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى ال سيدنا محمد كما صليت على سيدنا ابراهيم وعلى ال سيدنا ابراهيم وبارك اللهم على سيدنا محمد وعلى ال سيدنا محمد كما باركت على سيدنا ابراهيم في العالمين انك حميد مجيد. اللهم انا عبيدك ابناء عبيدك ابناء امائك نواصينا يا رب بيدك ماض يا رب فينا حكمك عدل فينا قضاؤك. نسالك اللهم بكل اسم هو لك سميت بنفسك انزلته في كتابك أو علمته أحدا من خلقك أو استأثرت به في علم الغيب عندك بأن تجعل القرآن العظيم ربيع قلوبنا يا رب اجعله جلاء لهمومنا وأحزاننا. اللهم إنا نستغيث بك ونتضرع إليك بأن تنزع الهوى والخور من قلوبنا يا رب العالمين. اللهم نسألك بأن تزرع في قلوبنا مخافتك ولا نخاف شيئا غيرك يا رب العالمين. Ya Allah, we pray to you, supplicate to you in this blessed day, blessed hour, Ya Allah, to take off any fear in our heart except of the fear from you, Ya Rabbil Alameen. Ya Allah, we ask you to change our condition to better conditions. Ya Allah, make us from those who stand for justice and speak the justice, Ya Rabbil Alameen. Ya Allah, help us to be from those who will stand for the injustice that is happening to different people around the globe, Ya Rabbil Alameen. Ya Allah, we pray to you, to supplicate to you to protect al-Masjid al-Haram, to protect the Masjid of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and to protect al-Masjid al-Aqsa, Ya Rabbil Alameen. Ya Allah, please our eyes when we are praying in al-Masjid al-Aqsa in peace and tranquility, Ya Rabbil Alameen. Ya Allah, اكتب لنا قبل الموت توبة ومن علينا عند الموت بشهادة على أشرف البقاع وفي أشرف الأيام وفي أشرف الأوقات وعلى أشرف الحالات والهيئات فإنك على كل شيء قدير. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وأقم الصلاة.